I originally proposed a heading that said feeling invisible because that's the way that I've felt this week. I've felt that I've been a bit invisible. But I really liked your topic, how you reframed that to am I invisible? Because I think it's a really good question that I needed to ask myself. So I sort of thought
Go
I'd
on. You've intrigued me.
so I thought I'd start with the what circumstances were around me that seemed to be making me feel invisible. So it was in the simple things. It was I was sending out emails and not getting any responses. I sent out messages on WhatsApp and I didn't get just crickets, just nothing, no response, not even that the message had been seen. I had 6 phone calls to make, and out of those six, two of them just wouldn't respond to me. And it was like, what is this? This is not different to the way that I always communicate with everyone that I always communicate with. And so suddenly I felt like I couldn't be seen. And it started to mess with, I don't know, my self-esteem, my I started questioning my validity.
Wow.
Um, mm, mhm. So I was like,
Did you hear that out loud? Is that the first time you've
yeah,
said that?
no. I mean, I think that these sorts of what could be seen as mundane examples can actually impact us depending on what our thought processes are. And I have some pretty strong thought processes. Um, and so that was something that was impacting me. And then of course that self-doubt was then front and center with anything else that I then communicated. So I was already setting it up so that I would not be seen or heard from, or I would not be responded to, because then I'd suddenly put the assumption that I wouldn't be responded to. It
Hmm.
was like, oh, really? So that went on for a couple of days. Look, it even turned up with Renz and I. Oh, I would communicate something and he would just not hear me. Like he would hear me, but we weren't on the same page. It's like the words I was saying was not what he was hearing. I don't know how to explain that. Um, the best way I can do is give an example.
Please do.
Um, my girlfriend had asked for some files. Um, they were shows that she knows that there are new episodes for. Renz was able to get them for her, put them on a hard drive. I gave them to her. She handed them back to me. She was like, oh, I've actually seen all the episodes that he'd put on there. And so when I said that to him, oh, I got the hard drive back because my friend's already seen all of those episodes. I was meaning, so we're going to, we're just going to redo that when the new episodes come down. That's all I was saying. And he was like, "Oh no, there was nothing else on that hard drive. I only gave her what she asked for." And it was like there was just a mismatch of communication going on. And I was like, even my words are invisible. What? So that's why I offered this topic up today. I have
And
done it.
you
Yeah.
you proposed this to me via a little 1 minute clip when you said this is what I'm thinking. And then you said, maybe you could help me work through it a little bit to figure out what's kind of underneath this. Is that
Yeah.
still of interest?
Yeah, totally. I've had some breakthrough, but not a complete breakthrough. Um, the breakthrough that I've had is that I'm doing it to myself.
How so?
I think it's that the self-doubt is coming first in any communication that I have. So I'm preempting that I will remain invisible, which is totally ridiculous. Now, on the flip side of this, there is loads of examples of where I am completely visible. Yet the focus is sitting on the I'm not being seen, I'm not being heard.
What is being seen?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell what others are seeing because they're not responding.
That's not exactly what I mean. Like, how do you want to be seen?
Oh, um, effective, present, um, responsive, ready, willing, and able would be a way to sum it up, I guess.
It's interesting that I asked you how you want to be seen, and everything you replied back was a way of being.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does to me.
I want to be effective. I want to be present. I want to be responsive. I want to be ready, willing, and able. Those are all ways of showing up and being.
Mm-hmm.
How does that reflect in how you are seen?
I don't know. I would still answer the same way.
What's the difference between, let's say, this week and last week?
Um, the difference is I applied for a board position and I have been accepted on that board, which is great. I've been recognized. Yay. Um, I suspect there's a bit of pressure and expectation that I'm making up all on my own that is impacting this. Which I sit back and find that fascinating because on one hand, I'm being recognized, and on the other, I've gone into panic about it. So I applied for the position. I want to be recognized. I want to be seen. And then as soon as that got activated, it was like, retreat, retreat, retreat. And it showed up in all the varying little bits of emails and messages and stuff and communications. And it's like, wow, I'm suddenly not, again, I come back to the self-doubt and the self-esteem type of thing where it's like, oh, maybe I'm not able to do this.
I don't believe you. I don't, because when you are present and responsible and responsive and ready, you are able to perform.
Mm-hmm.
It's your way of being that supports the doing stuff that you do.
Yes. And isn't it interesting how my thought processes have like you highlighted just before, you ask me how I'm seen, how I want to be seen, and I throw in the being. So I'm not even answering the question. So my brain is already interpreting like I'm missing a piece. I think it highlights how tricky our thoughts can be and how it can mess things up with us and have an impact on how we function in the world.
Then maybe the question isn't about um I mean, maybe you don't want to be seen because you're doubting yourself right now, but if you didn't doubt yourself, how would you show up?
Yeah, with full confidence.
But this is
It'd be
this is
it'd be
bleeding
a
into a
space of
regular email or a conversation with your husband. right? Places I'm sure you are supremely confident.
You'd like to think so. So I did put a little bit of practice in of going, okay, well, if I'm not being seen or I'm getting no response, then I maybe need to take a different approach. So I did. I took a different approach particularly on someone who I'd rung 3 times and they just refused to answer my call. And then I sent a text message and that broke through. And here I had this, oh my God, they're never going to call me back. Like they're not, just not interested. I had the best conversation with that particular person.
Did you find out
So
what the hang up was on why they wouldn't return your call?
oh yeah, there was a completely valid reason. For one, they had not yet put my number in their mobile. And so like me, if I don't have a phone number in my mobile, I don't answer it. Um, he didn't have a voicemail option connection. So the call just rang out.
Mhm.
So there was no option for me to leave a message. But the amount of beat up that I was doing about that was ridiculous because the first time he actually got a message from me, which happened to be a text message where I could identify who I was, instantly called me, which also highlights it was more about the position that that person was in rather than the position that I was holding.
Right, but your the way that you were being in that moment with self-doubt helped you create a story about why this person isn't calling or
Mm-hmm,
answering.
mm-hmm.
So it has more to do with your present way of being that is not supporting the way that you want to be, and it's not
Yes.
supporting your reality.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
So we just got to fix that.
Yeah. Go on. Get onto it.
I I'm a little stumped because you're usually pretty good at finding your own path through these things.
Yes. But I also know the advantage of not having to be the only person to find my pathway through these things.
Hmm.
And that's what these conversations can help with, right? Like to actually be vulnerable and go, actually, I don't have the solution. I haven't worked it out yet. I'm still got that self-doubt going on. I think that that's really important to admit to and to be okay with because it's really hard work to maintain the facade.
Same words I had in my head. I just didn't know if you were going to get there with me or not. But why do you need to maintain it anyways?
Yeah. Well, because like you just said, normally I've found my way through that. Yeah, normally I have. Can't see much at the minute. Might be that invisible energy. It's
This
just messed with me this week.
yeah, I can see how. I was trying to relate to this topic today myself about the whole idea of being invisible myself. And I had this thought about a project that I did at my office job. And I was sitting in the meeting room or whatever with like the big boss and another boss and everybody else is on screen and I could just feel them building up to something that was making me very uncomfortable and I did not want to be seen. Like I had done this project, they were very happy with it, and I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna like out me in front of 100 people and go, he did a great job. And they did that, and they're like, and we're going to give these people awards. I'm like, what is going on right now? I'm getting all sweaty and weird, and I'm like, I don't want to talk. Don't ask me anything. I don't want to be seen right now. I was totally fine with having done a good job and having my manager go, oh, good job. That's great work. I'm really happy with it. And I've been telling everybody about how great it was. And that was fine. But this extra level in front of all the people felt like too much. And I'm like, I was just doing my job. It wasn't like I did anything out of the ordinary. But for whatever reason, they felt it was out of the ordinary and worthy of some sort of a recognition award or whatever. Anyways, it just felt over the top, and I just wanted to crawl under the table and excuse myself. And I think that's weird because I'm okay with the limelight a little bit, but tone it down. Don't shine it too bright.
Don't shine it too bright. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going. Yeah.
And I kind of wondered if that's has something to do with kind of like how my business works now, right? Like being okay with some of the glory, but not wanting all of it. So is it affecting my business? Is it affecting my relationships? You know what I mean? When you're okay with some, like, I guess it may be that whole humble mentality that at least some of us in Canada have been raised with, where you're like, you don't boast about yourself, and you just, we're not going to like scream to the rafters and, oh, look how great I am, blah blah blah, Tony Robbins
Well,
myself up here. Like, I'm not
I
going to
mean,
do that.
that's such a standard thing here in Australia. It's just called the tall poppy syndrome. So anyone that is taller than all the other poppies gets knocked down really quickly. So you don't want to be standing up tall and being noticed.
I don't want to get knocked over. Oh, I like that.
Right. So yeah, I think on a cultural level, Australia has something very, very similar.
It all comes from the Queen. It's their fault.
Well, we can't blame her anymore. She's not here to take it on.
Americans don't seem to have the same problem.
No, not in my experience of being
I
exposed
am
to
making
them.
a big sweeping generalization for all my American friends out there. However, you seem to be a little bit easier being the tall poppy and not being worried about getting knocked over.
Oh, totally. That was the feel that I got the few times I've been to the States is everyone is quite happy to literally yell from the rooftops to be heard. Yeah. And then it just gets louder and louder because everybody's yelling. Yeah, so it could be a cultural, way that I've been raised. But I've had many experiences. I don't like to put too much on the way that I was raised, because for the number of years that I was raised compared to the number of years I've been a functioning adult all on my own, kind of outweighed now. So I can make these active choices in where I'm gonna how I'm going to function in the world, and the perception that I want to, come from, and all of those things. I've got a bit more say in all of that. But I suspect, and thanks to this conversation, and I hadn't joined these dots yet. I wonder whether it's because the board position raises, or this is all perceptually, this isn't absolutes, but it may raise my credibility, or my perceived credibility, or my contribution that gets seen, where I'll tend to do a lot of contribution behind the scenes. And a board position doesn't quite do behind the scenes. It actually flips it around and goes, well, I'm on the board, so now I need to delegate to others to get that particular project off the ground.
So is there something about this particular position that's making you unnerved somehow?
Oh, yeah, because it's really unknown at the moment. I officially have been accepted, but there has to be a annual general meeting for me to be brought on board, and that doesn't all happen until March.
So nothing
And
happens until March.
and yet the president is already asking me to do stuff.
Hmm.
So for me, that's a little bit of a mixed thing for me personally, because it's like I don't know what the position is. Like as in I know what the position is titled, but I don't know what's expected yet. I haven't been given what I would consider enough information. But everyone else seems to think it's all fine. So yeah, so that's probably unnerved me a little.
So what do you think you need to know?
Um, I think it's and these thoughts have been coming through in the last couple of days. It's like what, um, it's expectations. Like, what am I expected to do? What's my level of contribution? Like, what is the expectation on that contribution?
Like time commitment?
Time commitment, um, um, care factor commitment.
Care
Like,
factor.
yeah, so is it on my shoulders to make sure that this particular project happens, or is it on someone else's watch and I'm just a part of it? How much of a lead am I supposed to take when working with others? And I've been thrown into the deep end of working with people that I've not even met yet. So it's all of those unknowns that can unnerve me, because I really don't know what they need from me.
Do you know any of the other board members?
I do. I do know a couple. I'm good friends with a couple of them. So that's great. And but I also don't want to um like almost outstay my welcome of asking more guidance. I just want to let things play out a bit, but that's then my own self stuff that comes in. And I want to bring this back to what we was talking about before, because part of this conversation is, sure, I'm owning up to feeling like I'm invisible at the minute, and I know that'll shift. But it's like, if I try to just manage this on my own and don't verbalize any of these concerns, then I'm just going to get worse and worse and worse. If I can articulate it and verbalize it and ask for assistance and all of those things, then that's going to make it a little easier. There's still a little bit of a barrier to that, but I think it's worth sharing this concept of, even though it can be scary because there's unknowns and it's unnerved me and I'm feeling like I don't know enough and all of that stuff, I can still be in that place and get assistance.
And just going through the process of identifying what you know and what you don't know might give you some level of comfort, because you probably know more things than you don't, but maybe not having spent the time to look at that, outline them, and then identify who could answer these questions for me, or who could give me some direction, guidance, support when the time
And
is right to ask the questions.
it doesn't all fall on my shoulders. Like, then there's that tendency to go, oh, this is now my responsibility. No, I'm one of many. But me finding where that sense of responsibility is, but it's a little bit in limbo. And maybe this week is just my limbo week. Maybe everything's just a little bit up in the air and I just have to give it time and space.
It's amazing when you're in it, you don't understand the why sometimes, right? You need a little bit of perspective and distance from most of these things to go, oh, yeah, I needed to be in a little bit of an unstable, wobbly place to ask those questions, to get that clarity, to whatever, to learn the lesson that I need to learn now. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I've crossed a chasm that I didn't understand would ever serve me in any capacity. Ex-wives and, well, not wives, but ex-wife and whatever, relationships that didn't
I
go
was
the
going to
way
say, is
you
there
just,
another story you
no,
haven't
there's not
shared with
another
me?
story. I mean, there's a, anyways, yeah, it's just, it's deep. But sometimes you just don't know until you've had enough perspective and distance to look back and go, oh, I needed to learn the lesson about that self-doubt or whatever it was. Um, being okay being visible, or being okay being invisible for a time as well while you figure things out.
Yes. And I actually am a little bit grateful that this is coming up at this point in time, because in 6 weeks I'm going to be presenting workshops. Yay, very excited. And yet, like, don't want to be invisible in that environment. I need to be very visible. So, just I'm grateful that this issue gets raised now, because in 6 weeks' time, I will have moved, if not fully through it, then most of it. And we'll have the advantage of recently remembering what this feels like and going, yeah, no, I could do something different. And maybe that's the reminder as well, that this too shall pass.
Just writing that down right now. This too shall pass. I
Well,
don't think we
that's
need to
good
do
to
these
know.
anymore. We finish each other's thoughts. Facade. This too shall pass. There was something else there too. I exactly the same words. I couldn't even get it out on the paper yet. This too shall
Well,
pass. That's a massive lesson for anybody who's struggling with any one thing. It's never forever.
yeah.
We're in a
Yet in the
constant,
moment, it
we're
feels like it
yes,
could be.
we're in a constant state of change and change all around us, and things have to evolve and change. Must.
Yep. Yep.
Can't stop it. If you do, you're dead.
Here we go. So if you are feeling invisible, this too shall pass.
By the way, I love the gift that you put up there. I'm like, oh, I couldn't find a better one. Am I invisible? I have no idea what that's from, but it was perfect.
It definitely some movie, isn't it? It's like, yeah, that after looking through all the gifts, I was like, yeah, that's the thing. I'm making all the noises and no one's paying any attention.
I mean, I've had that conversation with my kids before, like there's arguments or whatever, and like, do you hear what I'm saying right now? Come on. Maybe not, am I not invisible, but can you not hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frustrating
Awesome.
in the moment, but maybe there's a lesson there for you if you can just settle down, slow down, ask some questions, talk to somebody, get it out of your head.
Have a conversation with you.
An
Yep.
easy conversation with Ian and Chris. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for
Well,
being
thanks.
vulnerable.
Oh, my pleasure. No, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, we don't
It's
always have the
always
answers.
it's always scary being vulnerable, but it usually has good outcomes.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.